If you drop into any major American city, you fall through canyons of glass and steel. But here in the nation's capital, the skyline simply stops. You level out over a flat, tree-lined expanse. Washington, D.C. anchors the largest economy on Earth, yet it lacks the defining feature of American commerce, the skyscraper. This absence of vertical density is by design. The layout of the district represents a deeply intentional act of urban engineering, planned and executed from a completely blank slate. Most metropolises grow upward to maximize real estate profit and pack in businesses. Washington was engineered from the ground up for an entirely different priority. Before the federal government ever surveyed this land, the Potomac River was already a highly active commercial corridor. Ports like Georgetown were moving millions of pounds of tobacco through their warehouses. The drive to build a dedicated capital started with a security crisis. In 1783, unpaid soldiers surrounded the Continental Congress inside Independence Hall. When Pennsylvania refused to send the state militia to protect the lawmakers, Congress realized it needed a sovereign district, immune from state control. Deciding where to put this sovereign district ignited a fierce regional conflict. Northern states fiercely resisted placing the capital in the slave-holding South, while Southern states demanded the prestige and economic gravity of hosting the new government. The gridlock broke during a private dinner in 1790. Alexander Hamilton offered a concession. He would support placing the capital in the South in exchange for Southern votes to pass his national debt assumption plan. This map visualizes the exact borders mapped out by surveyors Andrew Ellicott and Benjamin Banneker. They carved a precise 10 by 10 mile diamond directly across the Potomac and Anacostia rivers, fulfilling George Washington's location mandate. The resulting Residence Act established a neutral fortress. The founders secured a permanent home for the government, intentionally stripping the district's future residents of their voting representation to maintain federal supremacy. To transform this muddy river basin into a capital that could rival Paris, George Washington hired French engineer Pierre Charles L'Enfant. L'Enfant's design started with a standard street grid. He then superimposed broad, European-style diagonal avenues slicing through the blocks, forming large circular plazas. These practical angles allowed troops to move rapidly and provided crucial cross-ventilation during humid Potomac summers. But they also served a deeply symbolic purpose. The diagonals form unbreakable lines of sight, physically linking to branches of government across the landscape. L'Enfant's layout forces residents and visitors to continuously navigate around monuments of state power. The architecture demands that you look at the government, rather than commercial storefronts. By the late 19th century, L'Enfant's grand vision was faltering. The National Mall was fragmented by winding Victorian gardens, and trains chugged through a noisy railroad station parked right on the grass. In 1901, the Senate formed the Macmillan Commission. This team of planners and architects toured the grand capitals of Europe to study their monumental spaces and bring a unified vision back to Washington. The commission executed a massive demolition effort. They erased the Victorian pathways and commercial clutter, carving out a vast, highly controlled expanse of manicured grass modeled directly after the gardens of Versailles. They also strictly dictated the surrounding aesthetics. New structures had to feature heavy neoclassical elements, utilizing massive stone columns to project the permanence and authority of an ancient empire. The Macmillan Plan permanently removed the city's most valuable real estate from the private market. The core of the district became a highly curated, theatrical stage for American democracy. A common explanation for the city's flat skyline is a supposed law making it illegal to build anything taller than the Capitol Dome or the Washington Monument. That rule never existed. The real cap on the skyline comes from a specific piece of legislation, the Height of Buildings Act of 1910. This diagram illustrates the mathematical formula established by the act. A building's maximum height is directly tied to the width of the street it faces. Wider avenues allow for slightly taller structures, but vertical growth is always strictly capped. This strict mathematical limit preserves a light-filled, horizontal European character across the city. It ensures that no corporate headquarters can ever visually overpower the institutions of the federal government. Beyond the monuments, Washington operates as a heavily populated modern metropolis, complete with its own distinct, brutalist infrastructure. The master plan succeeded in creating a uniquely livable environment. The wide sidewalks, abundant public parks, and historic aesthetics make the district exceptionally walkable. However, keeping a major economic hub close to the ground has severe spatial consequences. Unable to grow vertically, the intense demand for housing spills outward, driving massive regional suburban sprawl. Because developers are legally prohibited from building high-density residential towers, the supply of homes remains artificially constrained. The result is extreme housing costs that price out many residents. The political compromises of the 18th century also remain intact. Over 700,000 people live in this heavily controlled federal district today, and all of them still lack voting representation in Congress. America's capital looks different from every other major city in the country because it was designed with a completely different objective. It was engineered to anchor a republic rather than to generate commercial wealth.